Oh my gosh. Okay, so who did is the first, you did these, okay, great.
You do the H1,
Thank you. Oh my God, let's see that. Yes.
yeah, okay, good, because we're looking at the minutes, they were a little late when coming up.
Anybody need any additional time to review this? Motion?
I move to approve the minutes as presented in our packet.
Packet minutes.
Hi,
Aye.
awesome. Liz,
All
thank you.
Opposed?
This is great. So these are the last two sets of minutes you think that were in the backlog?
I think so, yes, because we had a bunch last time, and I thought there was another one out there, but it was a cancel meeting. So I think these two, and then like I said, there's December, there's,
I have less time.
and last one,
Okay.
January.
So if we continue with the, just the facts, minutes that are, brief, and, hitting all the important points when we have them, for voting matters. Hopefully we can try to stay on top of them, and be in better shape.
Yep.
That's great. Okay. So the, Liz,
Second, and we have one.
oh, we were voting for both of those, yeah, both are
Okay.
approved.
Both approved, okay.
Yeah, both sets of minutes are approved. So the next issue is the buyer's broker RFI. So Liz sent the information to Charlie, procurement expert. And the way it works is, of all the respondents who are eligible, we would determine eligibility, essentially like, did they meet the criteria, did we like them? And if we did, then they go in the yes bucket. And among the yes bucket, we check the price, and all their prices were equal.
We can't be,
They were all quoting a 2.5% commission rate.
so none of them, so there's two separate pieces. There's the meeting the evaluation criteria and meeting the requirements of submission, and then there's the price proposal. And those two should be evaluated separately. So if you have folks that have all sort of met the criteria, then you really have to go by the price. And so
And the price criteria, everybody said that they were,
verbally said that, but
Verbally
they did
said
not,
that
but not
not.
all of them put it in the proposals.
right.
So essentially, it was difficult to choose one based on that, based on the price, if they were all the same price. And so we went back and looked at the criteria to see if they all met the criteria. And so you'll see on the first page is sort of an email from Charlie to Leon getting his approval on this. And the second page, I apologize, it's small type there. Went through and looked at the criteria, so the qualifications, the 4AI and 4AII on that top row correspond to the requirements for the proposal. And so I went through and each of the 4 respondents and marked if they had submitted the information and sort of where they stood. And essentially was able to eliminate everybody except Mike.
You were able to
So
eliminate it because
Mike
they didn't-
Hunter
I can be MLA.
is the broker from,
Because they didn't
Sudbury.
from Sudbury.
Because they did not what?
submit requirements as required.
Really?
So,
It's a technicality, but if we want to show that they didn't meet those requirements, so we can select one because the prices are all even, that's one way to do it.
essentially, if we waived criteria requirements, which we could if we wanted to, and we said, oh, you were late with your submission, it's okay, then because the prices were equal, we were gonna have to essentially
Yeah.
pull from a hat to choose a broker, and we all agree that's not ideal, to be choosing randomly among people who we interviewed and felt that one was, particularly qualified. to help us.
But you can get
So-
on, 3 of the 4 did not have all the criteria.
Somebody was late, somebody didn't have all the, I mean, the spreadsheet lays it out for you.
Oh,
Yeah, so, if you wanna look at that in a little more detail,
No. I mean, some.
it's really tough to read the print here, but, so, you can see where, in each of the different columns, the
I see.
number 1 broker, there were certain things where they didn't list their experience with working with similar entities,
Okay, fine.
didn't provide
Interesting.
similar transactions or references.
Yeah, okay.
It's great.
And so,
So Mike
you know,
got that.
so
You got it. And
Mike
we-
got it.
And,
And, I mean, he provided all the information, we
Yeah.
met him, we liked him, we thought he was
Right.
gonna be able to help us out.
Yes.
So, I think that we all agree would be great. I mean, what you did the other day, going to the assessor's office, pulling up stuff, I mean, that's great, but that's like a really idiosyncratic way for us to be finding properties.
I agree.
And it wouldn't help us negotiate an offer.
For sale sign.
Yeah, so,
So
I
can
mean, I feel pretty happy about that.
Yeah.
Can I vote who the person was chosen in the minutes?
Yeah,
or
do
not?
we need to like formally vote? I mean, we'd already voted on our.
I think I already voted on it,
preferred
so we'll
broker.
just, it's been approved by Leon, we have this letter that Charlie wrote, Leon,
Leon,
town
okay,
manager,
sure.
approved it,
Okay.
the selection, and so I'll just type up a letter for you to put your signature on,
That's great.
awarding it to
Okay.
him and letting the
Can we-
others know.
We should
Yeah.
write the others.
Yeah,
I think
right.
your
Yeah.
interest,
Thank you.
and
Yeah.
we'll keep you in mind.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I'll draft those up and we
Could
can
you-
send those out.
Have we come up
and
with a,
then, but wait,
I'm
Michael,
sorry.
wait.
Jesus, what?
I just wanted to, Diana Chaplin, Loveland, I just wanted to ask a question because I have not been to your meetings before, so I don't want to ask things. I'm very planning board trained. So,
We are not
We are
very
not
much like the
planning
planning board, just so you know.
but I also don't want to interrupt and,
That's okay.
but is there an input during the meetings for people in the audience? Like if I had a comment about what you're talking about, is there an appropriate time to share that?
You can
Or-
share that now. Yeah,
I can share that now.
yeah.
I don't know very much about what you're talking about, but my hope would be that if you're hiring a buyer agent to acquire property for you in the town of Weston, you would have a Weston agent help with that. That's just my piece.
Thank you. We went through a request for information process publicly and sent it out to all the local broker.
I didn't receive it.
Okay. I'm pretty sure it must have gone out to your office, but you know what, it might have been during the transition period, but.
When did
And
it go
anyway, it
out?
was listed publicly through, through the required town advertising process. And anyway, we got a bunch of submissions and we interviewed people and evaluated their criteria. There were a few Western brokers, and then the broker who we've hired is someone from Sudbury, but who's assisted the Sudbury Housing Trust with similar types of acquisitions. So although he's a neighboring broker, he's been a broker there for many years, and has a lot of experience with assisting, an entity like ours with a public process for acquiring property. So procedurally, we made our vote. Leon has approved the selection. And you can write the formal letter to Mike, and then also
The others, yeah.
sorry that we couldn't hire you, letter to the others. And then, I'm not sure exactly when we're gonna set our next meeting date, but, maybe we could ask Mike if, not to put a lot of pressure on him if he wants more than 2 weeks to, I mean, this would just be an open meeting. We wouldn't expect him to be bringing us a lot of information at the outset, but just to kind of have an introductory meeting to kind of brainstorm how to kind of set up a kind of an information gathering process with him. What do you think? Does that sound like a good idea? I mean, he already had a number of ideas of how he would kind of go through in a methodical way. And we may need to help bring him up to speed in terms of how the HPP did their process. And then kind of, think a little bit about how to inform him as he starts to evaluate things, because I think our criteria may be different than what Sudbury was doing. Right?
One thing was, I don't think there was ever a written document that clearly stated what the job was and what was going to be paid. So we talked about a lot of things, but I don't ever remember us finally codifying it. And based on the fact that we're appointed by the town manager, don't we have to get him involved in signing off?
Good question. So do you recall, what was the proposed buyer's agency contract a binding
So,
document, or is that going to be
so that's
negotiated?
still in process to negotiate the contract
Okay.
with the buyer's agent.
Yeah.
But the process all the way through has been, you know, the RFI listed out what the requirements were, what the description of the work would be. And then Leon has been involved in the RFI, he approved that before it went out.
I just feel that because of some of the snafus that occurred, as we were neophytes with Warren Avenue, the more we can put on the table beforehand and sign off on, the less likely we are to fall into the pit again.
I think this is kind of a different kind of, I think this has gone through the right process.
Well, I'd like to see something in writing myself.
Have you never read
The
you want to see a
RFI
copy of the RFI?
What?
You want to see a copy of the RFI?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know you've got it somewhere in your emails, but let's, maybe you could recirculate that?
Yeah.
Liz? That'd be great. Great.
Just one
do you
last
wanna-
thing, circling back.
Yeah.
When we meet with them, I think one of the things that I'd like to talk about is our expectations for communication with him.
Yeah.
Just kind of setting roots.
Yeah.
Reporting back, somewhat formal.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. I mean, I think that for a preliminary meeting, it would be sort of more of a continuation of the interview, if you will, sort of a get to know you, where he can hear a little bit more about what we've done, we can hear a little bit more about what his ideas are, and then we could, from there, kind of come up with a process that we think makes sense. Give him a chance to do some homework, and then say, hey, can you report back to us in a couple weeks?
Yep.
We don't have a lot of time pressure, but obviously if there's something that like pops up that's interesting, then we want to hear from you sooner than later. Liz, the next thing which I know we have to get done,
Well, it's due February,
the annual report.
February 16th,
So we do have a little time on it, and we could look at this as just the first initial draft, and we can focus time to, and we can talk about it and how we might want to change it. And then the next meeting, so I have a meeting before it's due, right, let me double check what Carol's date is.
So I haven't had a chance to review this, I apologize. Did you picked up from the last annual report?
Yes.
And I'm just trying to remember.
Remember, it's just to remind everyone, it's fiscal year, so it's, you know, July 2017 through
Right.
June 2018.
Right. So we don't have, I mean, in some ways, we don't have a ton of updating to do, except that Warren Ave, the last 2 units are now online.
So, right, so that
Expenditure of
was,
those funds.
except it was still under construction in July, June,
Oh, yeah.
June 2018. Good point. So I noted here that it was, that's the second paragraph there is all about Warren Avenue. That work is underway and expected occupancy by the end of the year.
Mm,
Are they not occupied yet?
They are now.
They are now.
Yeah. So again, we're having to put our minds back to the
End of the year, end of the year being
2018.
2018, end of 2018.
So this is supposed to be where we were in June of last year?
June,
Yes.
June 30th, 2018. Yeah, that's the end of the
Annual
fiscal year.
report, fiscal year annual report.
Since people will be reading this,
Mhm.
presumably, this is included in the warrant for town meeting, right?
No, this is
no.
separate.
Oh, this is
Well,
different.
They used to mail it, now you can pick it up.
Yeah, it usually is
That's kind of-
available at the town meeting, but this is effective as of June 30th, 2018.
I guess, why do I associate with town meeting, but is it,
I think they
Do
do
they
keep
distribute?
those books on the table there, yeah.
so we can't talk about stuff that happened after June?
New.
Oh.
No, it should be really the snapshot of what.
That's really unnecessarily confusing.
It is, and that's why I said that ahead of time, because when
Yeah.
you read it, you're like, wait a minute, but
Wait
that's
a
wrong.
minute.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's okay.
I like putting the elevation of Warren Avenue.
I do
That's
too.
very nice, good idea.
I do too.
I mean, the other big thing that did happen last year was the town,
We didn't have the
zero
town
Wesley.
meeting vote, right.
Right. And that's on the second page, the
Mhm.
last.
And then I think we did, just checking in to see, we did have the 40B proposals referenced in our annual report, even though we're just advisory to those
Yeah.
proposals.
Yeah, I mean, it says the trust continue to follow for
Right.
Boston Post Road.
Got it.
And then for 104, the project received its comprehensive permit during 2018, during FY18. October 23rd, 2017, which seems like forever ago.
I'm sorry, can you? I'm sorry, to start again, which one are you referring to?
So
104
Stony
Boston
Brook.
Post Road.
Yeah. I left that in there, I mean, I could.
The project
yes.
wasn't technically denied a comprehensive permit, right? It was granted
Issued-
with
oh, you're
conditions,
You're right,
right?
I'm sorry, yeah. It's issued.
It was.
Yeah, but the developer appealed the conditions, right?
Oh, is that?
Now I'm confused.
I am too. Do you know,
We should look it up.
I feel that it was.
we should just ask Noreen, because Noreen will tell us.
Noreen's.
She's gone.
She's gone?
Yeah, she's in Falmouth.
She retired? Oh,
No,
she's
she has a
working
new
there?
job.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Who's that, please?
Noreen.
When
I
did
had a
Stop
long
her.
conversation with her.
So,
So is there a new person?
I just saw
Not yet.
the job description was posted 2
2 weeks ago.
weeks ago.
Yeah,
okay.
right.
You know, you can look it up.
Okay.
She's working for a company?
I'll verify.
I'm not gonna say anything about this then,
Okay.
in a minute.
So, yeah, no, this is just sort of administrative, like, we'll just get the fact, whatever the fact
Get the
is,
facts,
straight, yeah.
Okay.
Because otherwise Dave Calhoun, I'm sure, will call us to correct us.
Right.
Because if anybody's gonna read the annual report, it's gonna be David. Okay,
Okay.
implementing the housing production plan, good. I think the only question, just like at a, we should all take a chance to just read it. For Liz's sake, if she needs to make any edits and circulate it and finalize it for Kara, we should try to get her comments in the next few days. So can everybody plan on just give it a careful read? And Liz, if you don't get any comments,
February 17th.
February 17th.
I have a meeting before that.
If you don't get any comments, I would say if we can just, I'll definitely communicate with you, but make sure that we get that information clarified. I'll what were you checking? You were saying? Oh.
Was it on?
Yeah, the ZBA post ones.
Oh, you mean the original one?
Yeah, yeah.
I thought you meant
No,
this,
back.
with the state housing board.
They denied, the 3-0 denied the application.
Oh, okay.
With the state did, or?
No,
No,
the
no,
ZBA.
ZBA.
Okay.
On health and safety.
Okay,
Yeah,
so you're right, yeah.
Okay, so that is done.
That's currently with the
So
state.
denies
so-
the correct word.
Denied is the correct
Right,
word.
is it with the state housing appeals?
Yeah.
Board of appeals.
So,
Which would not be included here because it didn't happen last year.
so you're gonna get comments from everyone. The only thing that I don't know, once we start commenting on projects that we've been evaluating, I don't know if we should include anything about Brook School or not, because we've been talking to Tom Duco about Brook School, but I don't know that, we haven't really formally had a public hearing, or,
Well,
any
it
kind of
hasn't been
hearing.
formally presented to us.
It hasn't been
It's
formally
just,
presented.
it's kind of
So
giving
it's
us
been-
status reports.
I did note in this third paragraph here that the trust provided review of many housing related items, including 40B project review and the review of the proposed new units at Brook School. That's all I
Awesome.
said.
Okay,
That's
so
great.
we're covered.
Thank you.
So it's
Okay.
mentioned.
Sorry.
That's okay.
That's
Okay.
great.
So
Anything
approve Doug. I believe his last day was before the fiscal year ended last year. That should be Harvey.
He was there for most of the year then.
But are we going from June? I thought his last day was June of last year. Are we talking about 2017, 20?
Yeah.
Why are we so far back?
Because
That's
it's
what
just
the
the
fiscal year
fiscal
runs.
year.
That's what it just said.
And why are we doing this now? Why are we
It's
doing
just
this
how the
now?
municipal schedule
Okay,
works.
never mind. We were going from June forward.
All right, so I think we keep that on.
Yes.
Are we good? Everybody's good with the annual report plan?
We'll get comments.
We're gonna get comments for this. Okay. I wanted to make a suggestion, which is, we could reverse order and talk about 0 Wellesley Street after we talk about South Ave.
Yes.
These guys do.
Because, you know, depending on how much time we have, we may wanna spend a little or more time. Yes?
But when you have it written, the time on the agenda, you have to follow that.
I mean,
It's
we have
approximate and I just maybe taken out.
Yeah,
of
we
yours.
sometimes do take them out of order. What's that?
It's on the
Oh,
agenda.
okay.
I'm sorry, what is?
It's listed on the agenda, the timing is approximate. right?
Yes, yeah, exactly, yeah, that's what Susan just said, yeah. And if there were someone, if there
No,
was
it's fine.
someone
It's written
here
there.
from
I
0
was just doing
Wellesley
point of order.
Street, then, later, then we would,
No, it's written there.
yeah. Is everyone here in the audience for South Ave? Okay, that's a reason that would make sense to flip our order every time. Because that way it'll give us a little more flexibility and time to talk about 0 Wellesley Street, because there's certain, just kind of open questions about how we decide to push forward with them. Any other administrative matters? I'm thinking about that. No. Good. Yeah, really good.
Yeah.
So, hello.
Hi.
We're ready to hear presentation on 518 South Ave.
Where do you want us to stand with our?
Whatever, we're a really informal group.
Yes.
Okay, so we just want to show
Please,
you.
yeah.
Over here?
Yeah, do you mind
That'd be
coming over
great.
here? That'd be really good.
Why, I get
Thanks.
Do you have a name, Mr. Scott?
We're gonna give it to you.
I have to put it in notes.
We're gonna give you everything.
Presentation card.
We've done this a couple times.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take a guess that what really attracted you to the property was the indoor lap pool. Right?
It was. This is
Wasn't
the
it?
book. There's a couple
It's-
more.
You walk in, you have your dinner,
Yeah.
you go for a swim.
Book for you.
Oh, this is Larry Ford.
I visited the house when it first went on the market, and my daughter's a big swimmer, and, or an excited swimmer. I said, guess what, we got a house for you. You can swim while I'm making dinner.
She's a big swimmer?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, she's not on the team, but she loves swimming, yeah.
Yeah, my kids went for Weston. Once it probably came out of Weston. So it's a Trinity now.
Oh,
really?
Right.
They did. Mike, he's a sophomore.
Oh.
Loves it.
Trinity in Dublin, not
No,
Trinity in
Trinity, yeah,
Connecticut.
in
Oh, there you go, oh,
Okay.
okay.
I'm guessing
Yeah.
that's
Freestyle and butterfly.
Oh,
Yeah.
great,
That's wonderful. Came through the system.
nice.
Anyway, I'm Jonathan Buckman. I'm just going to introduce myself and then my team with me. I actually reside in Weston. I live at 63 Sylvan Lane. I'm also a banner construction company. I do high-end residential development in town. I've done it for nearly 18 years. I think my first project I did through Susan on the planning board. I just want to thank the board for your good work with affordable housing. I knew Mark Mandel pretty well. We used to work out at one of my buildings, and I became friendly with him. And when he joined, I think he was on your board.
It's on
Mark,
the HPP.
was he on the HPP? Yeah, and he did great work. Mark Mandel.
Is Mark an architect? I never.
He
met
was
him.
an architect.
He was an
Yes,
architect.
yes.
Architect, yes. Got it.
So I'm Jonathan Buckman. I've going to introduce the team that I'm here with. On the team is Steve Dazzo from the Hanover Company. Jonathan White is going to be attending. He was planning to be here for around 8 o'clock, which is fine. He will come in.
I'm sorry, could you just slow down? Steve, what's your last? Desert?
Yes,
Great.
with Hanover Company.
With Hanover,
Yeah.
great.
So I'll give you a little bit of background on the project. I landed up acquiring 3 parcels of land. 510 South Avenue, which is about 5 acres. It's this piece over here. And at the same time, from the same seller, it was an estate, another 4 acres, and this was from Laurie Ford of the Fordham property for a total of 9.1 acres. And then I have purchased 540 South Ave as well, which we will use as the entrance to come into the property. We've got the whole board. You can actually see the seminaries, one of the big parcels that abuts us. They've got 24 acres, another 11-acre piece behind us, and then obviously we've got all the neighbors. This is Route 30. The high school is right down in this location. So are you all familiar with exactly where it is? So after I purchased it, I was actually looking to start off by doing townhouses. I built my own residential, but I was looking to do townhouses. I feel that there's a need for people that are retiring in Weston. They want first floor masters, they want second floor bedrooms. And that was my goal for doing this. And I actually went in and I met with the town manager, I met with the planning board, zoning board, board of health. We had everybody at a table. And I said, by right, obviously I can build 2 houses on these 2 pieces, 1 house here. And because I have now got access to get in and we've got 140 feet, we could go to a flexible subdivision, we could go to a subdivision, and then we can do townhouses. While we were sitting at the table, the new town planner, Imai, said that what he'd like to see on this property, they do not have, at this point they would like to see apartments, and they'd like to see 4 rent apartments, so that we can deal with the 40B process that's going on in Weston right now. And then obviously there's affordable units that would land up going with that. And if you do for rent, not only do the affordable units go towards the number, but even the market rate. So I have assembled a team with the Hanover Company as our lead developer. I've got Palmer at that. Palmer has lived in town for a long time. He's also in the multi-family, excuse me. Oh, you know that? Okay, so Thad Palmer. And Thad's on our team under Palmer Realty Advisors. And I've got Jonathan White, who's going to be the local attorney to help us. Jonathan's going to.
I know him years ago.
But Jonathan's going to be on as well. So we have also the architects that we have hired are called Cube 3. Cube 3 does a lot of apartment buildings. And we do not have the exact numbers and what we're going to put here yet. We're in the process of putting it together. We have done all the engineering with Metro West Engineering on the property. That's Rob Gemma. So we have surveyed the property, we have perked the property, and we've done the wetland delineation. So now we're into the design. We think we are going to be able to fit somewhere between 250 to 275 units in a building that's going to be most probably somewhere with the topography between 4 floors and 5 floors in the back of the property. So when you come into the approach, this is the existing driveway coming in from 518 South Ave. That would most probably become your emergency driveway, so that you will not be going to be for the fire department, police department if there's emergencies. We will be coming through 540, most probably somewhere in this location for the driveway because of the left turn. We've had the traffic engineers out, Jeff Yep. And he's already done a pre-walkthrough and traffic studies. Looks like it's going to be good. There's not going to be any issues. And then the building itself will be one structure, more than likely. It's going to most probably be a parking garage in the center, and then the apartments around it, so that it's not going to be exposed to the weather. People can actually drive up to their floor and then go into their apartment. We've also got we're looking at other options, maybe a couple townhouses. We've got to do a wastewater treatment plant somewhere because we're over 10,000 gallons, 90 units, and that's going to be located on the site. So that's where we are at this point with the project. We are pulling plans together. We're moving pretty quickly. We want to get in front of the selectmen, we want to get in front of the board, in front of the planning board, and all the other boards in town. And then we were probably going to end up filing through its mass housing.
Mass housing.
Correct. So I'm going to hand it over to Steve. Any comments, and tell us who you are in Hanover. And Hanover is going to be the lead developer on the project, and we'll be doing the project for you.
Perfect, thank you, Jonathan. I'm excited to be here, excited to be a member of Jonathan's team on this exciting opportunity. So just a background on Hanover, we're one of the most active privately held multifamily developers in the country. We've delivered over 50,000 units across the country, and it's easier to say the markets that we don't operate in, and that's New York and Chicago right now. We're headquartered in Houston, Texas, but we do have an office here in Boston. So I'm here in Boston, and David Hall, who's also on the team, is here as well. Here in Boston, we've delivered 24 projects, almost 5,000 units, and we have another 2,000 or so either under construction or in our development pipeline. 10 of those projects have been 40Bs, so this would be our 11th 40B. We have a strategic focus on the highest end luxury rental apartments in the marketplace. We don't do senior housing, we don't do for sale product. We like to call it, we're an inch wide and a mile deep. We're a vertically integrated company, so we're involved in this project every step of the way. So we are designing it, leading the design efforts. We have our own construction company, so we'll build it, and we have our own property management company, so we'll also be leasing it as well. And with that, I mean, it's very preliminary at this stage, so it's difficult to talk about plans and whatnot, but as Jonathan said, it's most likely going to be between a 4 and 5 story building. We call it a split level depending on the grades. There will be some sort of parking structure, so to minimize the lot coverage and whatnot. So, but thank you, Jonathan, and thank you for allowing us to be here. And if you have any questions about the product type or about Hanover, I'm happy to answer them.
Who do you expect to live in?
So, as I said, this would be our 25th project in Boston. We've operated in 18 different eastern Massachusetts towns. Those include Andover, Needham, Plymouth, Foxborough, Swampscott. We're working on a project in Wellesley right now, and we're seeing the same demographic all across those towns.
How are you going to serve our town? From our town's population, who do you expect?
So I think it's a strategic focus of yours, based on my read of the housing production plan, to have baby boomer empty nesters who want to remain in town but don't want to maintain big homes and big lots. We have a significant percentage of our demographic belongs to that demographic, as well as millennials who want to be in high-end towns with good school systems and are just starting families or just getting married or whatever it may be, and want to be in good towns. And that's the other biggest demographic that we serve. So
it's a mixed community.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
What kind of bedroom mixes have you been seeing in Massachusetts?
We typically will be somewhere between 60% one bedrooms, 30% 2 bedrooms, 10% 3 bedrooms. It's a 10% 3 bedroom requirement under mass housing, but we can certainly play around with the unit mix. That's something that gets vetted with the zoning board.
I think we was probably going to go to more 2 bedrooms than 1 bedrooms, just because of the people that might be using it. And we haven't come up with a number, but we will.
Correct.
We can, as we look at it, and we do the feasibility study and work with the town departments, we're going to come up with that number.
Yeah, those ratios I just gave you were just typical of our projects, but
Yeah.
You know, unit sizes are trending downwards. People don't need a lot of space anymore. We provide very high-end amenity spaces, so there's pretty pictures here also in those books. And you know, I could be extremely good at describing these units, but it's even better if I could tour you through them. So if any of you ever want to get out and tour any of our product in the marketplace, feel free to do it on your own or reach out to me. Happy to set up a tour.
Where's the Wellesley project, what's the address?
That's part of the Wellesley Office Park redevelopment, so that's in permitting right now.
Yeah, John Hancock.
Okay, yeah.
It's redeveloped. They're putting in 350 units.
Yeah.
And there's going to be hotels, and those office buildings are going to turn over.
Have you ever done any workforce housing? where it's like, you know, not affordable but not luxury. So you have like a layer of
So,
restricted but, you know, middle income housing.
we haven't, all of our affordable units have been either 25% of the units at the 80% range or 20% of the units at the 50% range. We have not encountered a zoning code that's asked us to do, you know, 100% or 110%, whatever it
Got
may
it.
And not to interrupt, but the way we see it, if there's 250 to 275 units, you're looking at somewhere between 63 and 69 affordable units on this project that we will be.
be. And that number would put the town over its 10% requirement.
In the building structurally, are there, is there a community room? I mean, so isolation doesn't set in and it's a luxury.
Yes, there's gorgeous courtyards with grilling stations, there's media rooms, there's community rooms, there's business centers. We're seeing a lot more people working from home. There's lounges, pool tables, everything you can imagine. This is the highest end product that you would see in downtown Boston or anywhere in the marketplace.
How do you handle handicap accessibility? Or
So-
development?
So 5% of the units are required.
So that's what your limit would be, 5%
Yes. Yes.
handicapped.
Have you reached out to the neighbors yet?
We have. We had a neighborhood meeting. We invited 14 people within 300 feet. We invited to the meeting, including the seminary. 7 people showed up. We had a good meeting. There was, out of the 7, 3 neighbors. One was located at 526, lives in Ohio, so he came to the meeting. He had some questions. We've got another gentleman in our Doan family who's a builder in town. He's on this location. He had questions. And then at 502, the McCurries. And then we've got another abutter, Steve Butera, who is right in front of us. Butera Landscaping is in front of us, and he can talk to the project as well. And we had, you know, Steve has said some nice things about the project. And then we've got the Benedettos, Susan and Paul, who are also very supportive of the project. And then we had Gina and Nick in the back who came to the meeting, and they were also very, very positive on the project.
So you have a low hostility level, as we call it?
Yes, I'd say 3 of them really were concerned. The others were listened to it. They were encouraged. They did like that we're going to be, you know, offering affordable housing to people. There's going to be a place for people that are retiring to sell their homes, to be in an apartment, go to Florida, to do other things, and then to have all these amenities. You know, the club. There's going to be a clubhouse. There's going to be gyms. There's going to be a swimming pool area. We're going to have a dog walking area outside. We've got 10 acres. There will be.
And make a reservation.
There's going to be some walking paths, and obviously, you know, it's for rent, so the rents are going to be within the range of whatever, you know, Weston is and whatever the market is. But you're going to get a first-class facility from Hanover, and that's why I brought them in to be a partner on the deal and to develop the form.
Just curious, you people are doing things all over the country. Are these financed as limited partnerships, or are they all corporate finance, centrally managed?
We have big institutional investors, so each project is financed as a joint venture with a limited partner. And
Most of-
How would you compare the way you do it with, say, beacon companies?
I'm not too familiar with their structure, but
Leventhal's.
Yeah, they do live in Watertown and all over, but they do mainly office buildings.
Well, there's 2 divisions, one's
Correct.
residential, the other's commercial.
Yeah.
do they have their own funds and they provide their own equity?
Well, originally, years back, and they've been in business for a long time, they were doing, I guess you have to call it tax shelters, but they did it, they were built to last, not just for the tax advantages.
Right, and that's very similar to what we do. Even when we sell these projects, we sell them to institutional investors. So if I'm JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, those.
So let me just interject for a second. So on this structure for this project, I am the owner of the land. It's going to be done on a fee structure. I'm going to be the sole owner as long as it goes friendly. I have already acquired the parameters for financing. It's a large project. I have the funding, I'm going to be doing it alone. At any point, if it goes unfriendly, I will then hand it over to the institutional guys and let them deal with it, and I'll get out. But as long as it stays friendly, I'm planning on keeping it. I've lived in Weston for 22 years. Financially, I can do it. I've already gone through all the parameters. It is a large project, and we think it's going to be a big success.
So Jonathan, if it does go friendly, you continue to be the owner.
So I'm going to hire.
You would hire them just on the, for the development, construction, management?
Exactly, so they'll do the pre-development, they'll do the construction, they'll do the permitting, and then they're actually gonna manage the facility for me.
Okay.
I'll oversee everything and be hands-on, but I'm gonna have them do everything, and I'm gonna retain ownership of it
Right.
as long as it stays friendly.
In the models that you've done before, what percentage are families with kids?
So we're typically seeing, and it depends on the level of affordability. So some projects we've done have been all market rate, and those typically have fewer children. So that's close to 10% of the units would have children. So if there's a 300 unit project, it's 30 kids. When you get up to 25%, it's closer to 15, 18% of the units.
One of the, I'm sure you've thought of this, but just emphasize one of the groups you might want to speak to, the school committee to get
Absolutely.
kids up.
Yeah, absolutely. We're in the process now of reaching out to all the town boards.
And the other good thing, Susan, on this project is there's a sidewalk that is already in along Wellesley Street all the way to the new light, but it's on the opposite side. We looked at putting in a sidewalk for the kids that live here to actually walk to the high school, cross over. What we must probably going to do with the traffic engineer, he's recommended, is putting in a crosswalk across Route 30 with a light and everything, and then doing some improvement to the sidewalk. We'll do it for the town. If they allow us to do it, we'll offer that. And then the kids will be able to walk across. A lot of kids don't walk to school. I've got two, they don't walk. And also we're going to have a bus. There'll be a bus, obviously, that'll come in, and we'll have a turnaround in front. They'll pick the kids up and take them to school.
Just can I, so, I thought with Route 30, any traffic lights is a state,
It's a mass highway road.
and so you'd have to persuade the state to.
Well, we would, yeah, with this type of development, we would talk to Mass Highway, and they would just give us a crosswalk with maybe a light that the kids would be able to safely cross the road.
Maybe a
And then-
pedestrian.
Pedestrian light, exactly, it could be a pedestrian light.
And I know, this board, we're about affordable housing, but of course we want to make sure that if we're supporting a project, that we also, kind of believe at a basic level that it's, makes sense and is safe. And my gut, experience of entering the lot when I went to visit the house was that I knew
This
it
one?
was rear-ended so I came over Highland Street,
Yep.
came out to the V,
Yep.
took a left onto South
Correct.
Ave, and then
Took a right.
slowed down to take a right onto that
Yep.
driveway, and somebody was barreling, because this is Route 30, and
Yep.
people travel at a high rate of speed, so I just imagine, I know your traffic engineer's probably gonna tell you everything's okay, but 270 units, your access in and out there is right at that V.
It's gonna be
And
right
so,
through. Yeah, correct.
I'm just guessing that you and the planning staff are gonna spend quite a bit
Oh,
of
yeah,
time talking
there
about
might be
that.
this deceleration lane. Also, most of the traffic is gonna be going into Boston or to Wellesley or up north. You will have some people going out towards Natick. And if you look at these complexes and they talk about it, a lot of people, not everybody gets in the car and leaves at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Mhm.
People are going in all different aisles.
Mhm.
And when you pull out forwards, you're not gonna come in backwards or have to back out where the driveway is now. You'll be able to, come into the complex, turn around, and then make your turn right or make your turn left. In the morning,
Right,
it's
so you're thinking of a circle, like you come in, you circle.
you're
around.
gonna come in and there's gonna be a complete,
Got it,
way to
Drop off future
turn.
resident
Yes.
parking spaces.
got it.
Yeah, you're gonna be able to turn around and go out, and then there's gonna be, ways to come into the building from the side, but everybody will be going out forwards and not backing up. Right now, it's very difficult in this driveway to do it, and that's why we're gonna eliminate it, just have it for emergency access for
Right.
fire department, police,
Got it.
ambulance.
Is there one parking space per unit?
1.6 is what they use.
Yes.
So there's gonna, indoors, yes, so there's gonna be roughly about 425 to 450 parking spaces inside the parking garage for all the tenants.
That's correct. And as I mentioned before, as unit sizes have been shrinking, we've also, over the last 10 years, automobile ownership in our buildings has been declining. So right now, On average, I would say our buildings are parked at about 1.3 to 1.4 cars per unit. We provide parking spaces for 1.5 to 1.6 parking spaces per unit. The town is concerned about parking, as are we. We, as the manager, owner of these buildings, we can't have a parking problem either.
Do you foresee offering any shuttle services to Mass Transit?
We have not discussed that at this point, but if it comes up, we can certainly talk about it.
The other thing I'm going to look into is putting solar on the building to power all the common areas, public areas, the wastewater treatment plant. So we are looking at putting solar on to be self-sustainable for most of the complex.
Does Hanover tend to do LEED certified buildings, or?
We do, yes.
Do we have any idea what the seminary is thinking about the development?
What they think about our development?
Yeah.
We've had meetings with them.
Yeah.
I don't know if Jonathan wants to answer to that, on what they planning. We've had some very good meetings with them. I think the seminary is looking at some options for themselves to do some elderly housing. The problem is if they go to do it, they have to hire a developer to put a building on their property. They've got a bleaching field now that's from 1971, is where they put the building, that services 90 bedrooms, so they're gonna have to go to a wastewater treatment plant. They need a developer. They say they do not have the funds to do it, and if they do go to do it, they want to do it over 55, which means they're competing with every other project in town, with the town, because they're not excluded from that. So they, if the units get done and we get our 10%, they're not gonna make it, and they move slowly. So, I don't know.
And so their project I suppose it's not for you to tell us
Yep.
what their plans are.
They want to build 90 units.
Yeah.
Would you think about building enough capacity in your treatment plant to allow them to
It gets complicated when you do that. The facility, the wastewater, first of all, we got to locate one, we got to have a big enough leaching field. The building gets large if you go to too many units. But we will look at everything. If they do talk to us and work with us, we could do that. Maybe we would even, purchase some land of theirs that they're not using and then be able to do that with them. I've talked to them about that. I think that's maybe the way they might land up going eventually if they need money. And then we would look at that with them. So we're open to anything. We just need a dialogue. But for now, we've got to concentrate on this project, get it in front of everybody, make sure the town's happy, the townspeople, the neighbors, and we can deliver it.
Say it all went swimmingly. What kind of a timeframe? How do you parcel out what you're gonna do when?
Okay, so the normal process is 6 to 12 months, as long as everything goes pretty smoothly. So for 2019, we'll be permitting and getting all our approvals and doing everything. We must probably be starting in the ground in next spring of 220, and then it's 18 to 24 months to build this. So we would be 221. We would want to start having it ready for occupancy. Correct, Steve?
Exactly.
February 21, is that what you're saying, February 21?
Yeah. So it's 18 months to 24 months of building, and it's 6 to 12 months of permitting, as long as you don't get held up on anything.
When do you go for your eligibility?
So we're in the process of preparing those materials now, meeting with the town boards and asking for letters of support from the town to go in with our site eligibility application. So we're looking at sometime in early to mid-spring to be able to submit that to Mass Housing.
That's gonna be interesting. Yeah.
It's a good location, it's near the high school, it's close to, Mass Turnpike is down the street, into Wellesley, and, it's a lot less traveled. It's amazing, it is like, Route 30 is less than Route 20 for traffic, and one South Ave and 117. The town has to put these in some way. You've just got to pick the best location and not in somebody else's backyard. And we feel that we could help the town, and as a resident, I'm going to be here for a long time. We think this is a great location. We're very fortunate to find it.
This is the first proposal I've seen on the south side,
Yep.
Right.
which is interesting.
Yep.
So what would the face look like? I mean, in an old town like this, what's it gonna look like?
It's almost too early to say.
Not almost, it is too early.
Yeah.
No conceptual drawings.
Okay,
yet.
yeah.
It's gonna be a first-class building.
Certainly would. I mean, the facade materials would be a mixture of masonry and hardy panels and metal panel. I would recommend our Charles River Landing project in Needham, which we no longer own. It's right across the street from the Kendrick, so we developed that in 2010. We have a in Medford right now that would also be a good representation of our typical mid-rise project like this. But there's a number of different routes that we could go, and that will be further vetted as part of the permitting process.
The other thing is I wanted to walk in, you're more than welcome to come out sometime and actually see where we're gonna put the building. The building itself, I mean, this is 300 feet in. The building itself is gonna be sitting back in this whole area. So you call it whatever, 400 feet back. And coming in, we're gonna end up screening it with landscaping and all the neighbors and everything. So you're really not gonna see a lot of it. If you go into the existing house and look forward with all the trees and that, you don't see a lot of Route 30. You're not gonna see a lot of this building from the property.
Do you plan to demo the house on that side
Absolutely.
lot?
Yep, that's gonna come down. This is gonna come down, and so will the back. They're both gonna come down.
So I'm sorry, the building site is probably the location of the, I mean, generally the location of the existing home.
Yeah, but it's much bigger because it's a big
Right,
building,
of
so it's
course.
gonna be in this whole area.
Right,
Back here, and then we're gonna have, emergency roads and things that connect them back out again and into
Right.
the garage. So it's a big piece. I mean, you've
Yeah.
got, 9 acres back here. We've got some wetlands. We're far enough from all the wetlands. We're staying outside.
put that one up, please.
Sure.
And the guesses for the wastewater treatment plant location?
We have not,
You don't know that?
we haven't done it yet.
Okay.
We've perked it. We've done the wetland delineation. So Susan, you've got your 25 foot is right. That's your 100, there's your 25 foot, right here. So we are staying everything, we're keeping everything basically inside the 100 foot anyway. You've got an intermittent stream over here, so we're nowhere near that. And we're gonna keep it, it's all upland, everything's upland, which is nice, so it actually works out pretty well. Love to walk you out there sometime. We tried to do it, the weather was bad. But you've really got to come look at the site, because the funny thing is when I had Cube 3 come out there, they looked at the drawings and they go, even as an architect, they couldn't visualize it from the drawings, and when they walked up there, they go, wow. I mean, it's beautiful back
I'm sure for them, they're like, there's so much land.
There's a lot of land.
For Western people, they walk like, there's not that much land, right?
Yeah, we're not cramming
It's
it
all
in on a
relative.
2 acre piece, you've got 10 acres here.
Right, well, yeah, I mean, I think that if you were concerned about, neighbor impacts, it's really, the folks.
This gentleman,
Yeah.
yeah, we've got Steve Butera over here, and he said Steve can talk up. This gentleman, I've talked to about purchasing his property, but he's not hired, he hasn't come forward.
Mm.
And then other than that, I mean, you've got 11 acres between all the people on Wellesley Street and us. You've got the seminary behind us, and then the other next closest neighbor is, way away from us. Over there.
It's a crazy concept, but is there I'm just thinking of, any other kind of, public access that you could allow by way of trail easements, or, I know that doesn't really work necessarily with your building, but to the extent that there's any way to get trail access out to Wellesley Street, to the school?
Well,
I mean,
you'd have to cross through somebody's property.
right,
And unless we purchase something from the seminary, which in the future we're not guaranteed, you'd still have to cross some properties over on Wellesley
that's
Street.
what I thought, right.
Yes, you'd have to cross. And there's a lot of wetlands.
That's what I thought.
That area is very, very wet in this,
Yeah.
in this bottom downland area.
Yeah.
Very, very wet.
Actually, going south to Brown Street might be the
I
better
know, I
option.
was actually thinking the same through the Greek church property, if they
To
were.
get you to where?
To Brown Street.
Brown and then to Wellesley.
I mean, I'm just thinking of
Like a
like,
walking trail?
yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I was thinking of, any outdoorsy or adventurous children who want to walk to school.
I mean, I've walked to the seminary already, when the 11 acres behind us, and it's pretty nice back there, it's just
Yeah.
woods.
Yeah.
They didn't even know they owned it at one point.
After assuming everything goes forward, there's a lot of land here. Do you anticipate building any townhouses in addition to the main structure?
So we're looking at our options right now. We are looking at the main building out here. If we can, we would like to alongside, there's only a driveway coming in here, which would be about 12, what's it, 12 feet, so it's 24 feet wide. If we don't need this for the wastewater treatment plant and leaching field, we were thinking of putting some townhouses, maybe fit like 9 of them in here, which we would land up also for rent, about 1,800 square feet, 1-car garage with a parking space. But we're looking at all the options before, and then we'll present it and we'll see, where it goes. But there'll definitely be 250 plus units in the building. We've done we're looking at models for that now.
So it won't be an island over here eventually as it develops its community.
Correct. Correct.
The affordables are scattered throughout.
Yes, they are, and they have the same finishes that the market rate units have. Can't tell the difference.
And you said between 63 and 69 affordable.
You run 25.
It depends on.
25% of the final number you get.
Oh, it's.
25% at 80. We're going to do 25.
We're doing it.
80%.
Yep. And also, I've also mentioned this before, we'd love to see, some firefighter, policeman,
Yeah.
school teacher, people that work for DPW. I don't know how that works through the affordable process, but as a resident, I know a lot of these gentlemen from working in town and being in town for 22 years. I would love to be able to at least offer them a way to come in here, send their kids to school, and be able to afford to live in the building, with the process we're doing.
You're going to allowed to have a local preference, that's
Yeah,
your choice.
it would be a condition to the comprehensive permit, and we regularly
Yeah,
have
I'd
that
love to do
condition,
that.
so.
And with rental, the local preference.
Yep.
It's easier. Yeah.
For the first lease up.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Well, that's where Sarah, as you were mentioning the workforce housing, a lot of those folks really make about the 80% of the minimum, so.
They do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even in Weston with the
Yes.
AMI, 200,000.
Especially if they're.
Well,
If they have
It's not just Weston.
It's not Weston.
It's a census.
So what's the income normally there? 50, 60,000? Is that what they
Yeah,
are?
I think it's 62,500 right now.
Yeah.
For, yeah.
For a person.
Exactly right.
So how do you allocate to town employees if they don't know you can't?
There's no allocating, it's a lottery system, so we'll have a local preference, so the people in the local pool essentially have a greater
Out of
chance
Weston.
of, right,
And then it goes to outside?
yeah.
Okay, but doesn't include town employees, even,
Or can
The
local
local
preference.
Yeah,
They
we have
qualify.
a policy of, our local preference definition includes people who work for the town and people who are employed in the town, right? Do we-
It's.
You want a bona fide offer of employment for
It's,
your town.
it's the local preference as stipulated in the 40B guidelines, so it's not the town's policy, it's the 40B guidelines.
Right.
So our policy doesn't have any,
But the permissive all categories.
yeah,
It's children in the schools,
Right.
it's working on file.
right.
which would be nice.
Once it goes into, once it goes into the local preference pool, then you can throw your hat into the general pool. You're
Yes.
not excluded.
That's
So
right.
they get two grasses.
That's right.
Two bites of the apple.
So Jonathan, one of the things I was saying to when we first started is that I was excited because I went to a lunchtime conference with Mass Housing, was talking about their financing of workforce housing. So workforce housing is their word for between 60% AMI to 120% AMI, so like people who are making a little bit more than the affordable people. And so they provide some financing for rental units that are built that are, again, so it's the window above the affordable, the 80%. So they can subsidy in sort of above, you're required to do your 25% affordable, but then you could get financing from them, or it could be, we have to double check this, but it sounded to me like this was no interest loans to have workforce housing for either a 15-year or a 30-year restriction. And it also sounds like it's a program where it's very individualized to a particular project, and they're quote-unquote dying to get into Weston. They don't have any Weston projects. They have a ton in Boston and Cambridge, some in the the gateway cities. They've one project in Newton that they're financing, and they've got a pot of funds that's going to run out. They're hoping to get it replenished. It's just something that
Look at, no, we'll definitely look at that. That's over the 25%.
we would be really interested in supporting that, because as you know, in Weston, it's really tricky. It's like,
It is tricky.
like you said, it's like if your fire people can't fit into the pro forma, but you really do want to provide options.
Yeah. So how many people would you be thinking, on that type of, maybe 5 on a project this size? What are they
You
looking
take
for
as
for
much
numbers?
as you'd be willing to do.
No, I know, but-
Honestly, I mean, it would take the sting away from, I mean, just to be honest, I mean, none of us are like saying, oh my God, 250 to 270 units, but that's gonna, I'm telling you, that's, and I'm sure
Well,
you're
I've
aware of
said it
this,
from
the
day one.
selectmen are gonna look at you like, oh my
Yeah.
goodness, you're killing us here. I mean, we're the affordable housing proponents in town, the people around this table.
Which is great.
So-
converted,
Yeah, there's not a lot of us here, is what I'm trying to say. So in terms of like your political battles are gonna be a little tricky. So anyway, just something to
Yeah,
consider,
we definitely do that.
thinking
You're talking
about.
about something already, you worked there.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I have not.
And I
heard
don't
of
know
that
what
program.
that does to your pro forma, I mean, I understand that they think it's great, it's like 100,000 per unit that they could finance, again, 0 interest or some very low amount of interest over each year.
And that's over 25. So on that, and then there's a certain amount of time that you have to keep those units, you said was,
Yeah, I think that they were saying that there were either 15-year restrictions or
Okay.
30-year restrictions, and I wasn't clear if there were different programs that they were talking about, or,
how about the affordable units? What, is that for the entire life of the property? It's
yeah, so
there.
those will be perpetual, yeah.
Yeah.
The mass housing regulatory agreement
Yeah.
is for 30 years, but it's always a condition to the comprehensive permit that it's a permanent restriction,
Good.
so you don't enter into a local regulatory agreement.
And who handles that for the leasing of the units? And that, do you guys handle that for the people that come in for the affordable? We do.
You will.
We handle that.
We'll hire a consultant.
To do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll run the lottery, you'll.
Yep.
We normally work with SEB. I know there's a couple other consultants out there, so,
Good.
but SEB's done all of our projects.
Any other questions from anyone? Diana?
I have a question. I think for the viewers at home, it might be helpful to understand the difference between hostile 40Bs and friendly 40Bs.
Susan? Go ahead.
You know, I don't think that there is a real entity such as a hostile 40B. I think what you're probably looking for is to get the selectmen to support the project and support it in your eligibility letter.
Yeah, so that actually does prompt a question. So Jonathan, are you gonna try to ask the selectmen to do a local initiative project? Will it be a lit
That was not our
process?
plan, not to do a little
Okay.
process. We were gonna ask the selectmen to
To
write a letter of
support, yeah,
support, but
just
still
let
do
them
the mass
know.
housing
Got it,
process, yes.
okay,
I mean, we'd love to see the support of everybody. Not gonna
Sure.
make everybody happy in town,
right.
but it's gotta happen some way.
Mhm.
And Weston needs it at 3.77%. They'd have to build 2,000 homes to be able to get it. It's never gonna happen. And you see all these, when we call them friendlies, these little projects coming up in everybody's neighborhoods. If between us and the other projects that are planned, we can take care of that number going into the future, Weston doesn't have to deal with it anymore. And it can be done right and in the right way. Be proud of the project for the town.
You're willing to negotiate with the town and to give a little bit to get to that lip.
Well, he's saying they're not gonna do that.
We're not doing it.
You're not doing, I'm sorry, I missed that.
No.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
no.
So in other words, so like it's a different, literally different, permitting path,
Yeah.
but
So
you
it is a
will,
hostile
obviously
40B
you're gonna,
then?
no, it's
Yeah.
not.
Well, we
No.
define lip generally by, it's
Well,
not
no,
local.
no, that's why the
Yeah.
question, what's a hostile 40B, like, there is no, what is a
Hostile
hostile?
is when you
It's
get,
like,
it's
I
when you
feel
get turned,
hostile,
it's when you
but-
get turned down, and you take it to court, and you fight it for 5 years.
So-
Well, colloquially, what we say is, so you either have a joint application with the town under the LIT program, and that is oftentimes called, friendly.
Yes.
And it's oftentimes called hostile if you go out on your own and go straight to the state and bypass.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you go to the
I
ZBA,
think
then
there's-
presumably you get denied, then you go to the state.
And that's not the intention here. I think there's the friendly 40B, which is a set program, the LIT program, and then there's a regular 40B. But, if we want this to be an involved process and we want it to be a project that the town is proud of, that we're proud of. So we're going the mass housing route, but we would like letters of support from the town.
I guess my question was, are you willing to negotiate with the town and perhaps not get everything you want, but to have the support of the selectmen, as opposed to going straight to the ZBA after you get your eligibility
What
letter?
if the selectmen does want this project to get the numbers that they need to meet the 10%?
Well, it sounds then you're in agreement.
Exactly, so that's what we're looking for. That's what we're looking for. We're gonna work with the town. I've worked in town for a long, long time. Jonathan does too. The first thing that we both said to each other, we wanna work with everybody, we wanna do it right, and otherwise, we're not gonna be involved. And we're just gonna walk away and hand it over to the institutional guys and let them, take care of it. Because they would love to do it. I prefer for all of us if we keep it and we keep it local, and then we can do all these little things that we all wanna do, and do some good in the community.
Did you have an institutional finance source at this point? or-
I have a local bank. I deal with Citizens, I deal with
Citizens.
Belmont. They've given a budget already for me on the project, and the financing will be in place at Kenny now.
Another question. Based on what you just said, are you saying that if it doesn't go in this friendly way that you're describing, then the Hanover company will pursue a non-friendly process?
I'm not saying they're gonna do that, I'm just gonna say I'm gonna sell it as a project and walk away from it, and then let somebody else take it, if it's Hanover or somebody else. But we don't wanna go that way, I don't think it's gonna happen that way. I think between everybody, we're gonna make this friendly and we'll work something out. Any other?
So, do you mind to tell us what your sort of next steps are, like what do you think, just anticipating your timeline for when you are gonna try to submit to Mass Housing, and maybe we'll just suggest like some more chances, hopefully for you to touch back with us. There's obviously, there's the selectmen, there's the planning board sort of process with like probably heavy details on the site planning and the traffic and all that kind of stuff. And then sometimes we love to hear some of the details from a different perspective, because we'll be a little bit more concerned about the experience of the tenants and sort of like long-term management considerations, and how the affordable is fitting in, thinking about social services, that kind of thing. So if you just help us with what you expect for a time frame, and then maybe we can just ask you to come back to see us again.
Yeah, I would say the next 6 weeks to 2 months, we intend to meet with as many boards and commissions in the town as we can, and hear all the issues and what things the town would like to see be addressed, and that will go along with our preliminary site planning efforts and our site eligibility application to Mass Housing. So ultimately, the town has weighed in, and we can get a letter of support from the Board of Selectmen to go in with our Mass Housing application.
Great, good.
Does anyone at the public like to speak?
Like I said at a meeting before that we had with the other budding neighbors, if
Just tell them
any-
who you are.
Yeah, I'm Steve Butera, I'm Butera Landscape based in town, I've been here for 30 years,
What's the address?
534 South Ave. I'll be taking a lot of what's going on into my backyard, with hearing construction, with seeing cars come and go. I dealt with Beechwood Estates being built for 23 months, it took for across the street to be built, the private horse farm. I really wasn't affected in any way business-wise or personal-wise. My biggest thing about it is that I had prior problems with our neighbor behind us, so I know what it's like to try to put a stop to something that's going forward. And I see all these other projects that are going on that are the same idea, whether they're a little bit smaller or ideally they'd probably like to do something this size. If someone's gonna do it, I would wanna see somebody from Weston do it, because somebody's gonna be benefiting that's from our community, rather than have some stranger come here and really not care about doing it friendly or unfriendly, because money's the biggest object to them. As you see, if it's not friendly, he doesn't wanna do it really, because he doesn't wanna tarnish the name that he has. He's done some of the finer houses that are here in Weston that are, the 6,000 to 10,000 square foot stature of houses. So for me, I'm a younger generation than most of the people that live in Weston. Not everyone's 35 years old, most people are 50. But I just like to see other people that are in the area be successful. Yeah, well, I'm one of the younger residents that lives here. But I like to see other people from the town or that actually live in the town to do well. And to do projects like this, I take pride of it as being somebody from the town to do it, and just not somebody else, like she made the comment earlier about the Weston broker. That's what clicked into my mind, because I'm always the same way. Like, when I meet somebody that's in town, I'm like, well, why aren't I landscaping for you? I landscape for a good amount of homes here in the city, or in the town, and other towns that abut it. And that's always the first thing in my mind is, like, you know, to buy local. Everyone promotes it, but not everybody does it. So my first thought all the time is, like, now that I live here and I've had this residency for 30 years, I only want to see people do things in the town that are from the town. I have a lawyer that lives in the town as well. I only like to do things from here. You know, that was the biggest thing for me living here, was to make sure that I always give back. That's what my dad taught me. My dad had the company for about 15 years before he moved to Weston, and had always been a very good neighbor, and had always been willing to give back without charging anybody anything, and always making sure that whether or not the person could afford it or not afford it, it was still doing a good deed, and it was based in town, to just make sure that, like, the name of the city is going forward, not just yourself. I don't benefit off everything that I do here in town. I would like to, but sometimes I don't, just because I'm trying to be neighborly. And it's a privilege for me to have my business here on top of it.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah,
Steve, do you live and work from your property?
I do.
It's just true.
Yeah, my father's been there on Route 30 since 1990.
Got it.
So Stephen's right here, this is his property right in front of us.
Oh, okay.
That's his property. right
And
there.
as much, I'm not sure, I'm assuming all of you guys are residents, and I don't know how long, but you seem like you might be running the six of you. I feel like you spoke the longest, and it's good. Well, you know, and it's good in my chest because you just asked me that question, and that's the biggest thing that I pride myself on, is that nobody knows that I run a business from my house. My house is pristine all the time. You can't see any equipment, you don't hear any noise, you don't see any employees. We come and we go. I've had one complaint in 30 years,
Wow.
and that person now has passed away, and Jonathan brought his property.
There was a lot of lawsuits connected between Lori Ford and all the neighbors. Really? A lot of lawsuits. Back to 1970. I've had to clean up a couple and we looked at, there was a lot.
Yeah, I have
Did
two
the
little-
access get, I mean, the driveway is now, like, there's no, that's your fee interest, that's not an easement.
No, that is our driveway, which gets you into this property and into the other piece. That's why we bought this piece, is so that we can actually bring in.
And access there, yeah.
You know, go 140 feet now, if you need it. You only have 16 feet at the entrance. up
And
here.
you got the wetlands right off, right?
Yeah, and that's why we'll close this off, we'll make it an emergency road, it'll be nice, people can, you can actually walk through here, it dries up a lot. There's a lot of land back there. Diana?
Thank you.
Jonathan?
Hi, John.
I'm Jonathan White, working with the other Jonathan on this one. I was young when I first came to Weston. I was still in my 20s, but that's a long time ago. The only thing I would say is, over the years, I've avoided, I live and work in Weston, I've avoided 40Bs like the plague as a local attorney. This is the first one I've been willing to get involved in. I know Jonathan, and I've kept track of the numbers that we have to reach, and it just seemed like a good project. But I'm like Jonathan, if it's going south, you know, I value my name, but if we can work with the town and make it happen, great. That's what we're hoping for. I think it's a good project.
Yeah, my other thought of it is that I've familiarized myself with what else is going on for the other 40Bs that have been projected here, and I don't believe that I saw any of them. I don't know capacity on size ratio, but no one was dealing with an 11-acre property that was going to be recessed, that was not going to be visible from the street. Everyone else is going to be on the street. That was the other thing that I don't see, even with the square footage of what this building is compared to the plot plan that it's laid out on. None of them are even close to that on the ratio to give on the building size. I mean, I wish that the select board would be able to see the same thing, but I really think it's a perfect location, and like I said, if it's the person that's right behind it is agreeing with it, I think that it says a lot. And I have no stake in this, I have no part of this or anything. It's just, like I said, the giving back part of it, and like I said, there's no other better person to do it, because no one else is local in any of these projects that are gonna be going on in our town.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
One more question.
Yeah,
Sorry, one more question.
just if you don't mind really quick, so I'm gonna have to run soon, we have one other thing on our agenda.
Sure, so this is mostly for the board. One of the things that this project would achieve the goal of is that we would met our safe harbor number, I think, is is that correct? We'd meet safe harbor, so at that point, would we need more affordable housing in town?
I think Safe Harbor works for 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Jonathan?
Yeah, it's a time limit, and it can change over time. We'd like to get a little, I think, I'm learning this as we go too, because I've been avoiding these, but get a little security, a little fluff above that. How much, I don't know. I don't know if you've seen that in other towns.
So Safe Harbor is after 140B is completed, I believe it's 2 years before another one could be proposed, but this project would put
Way
over
Safe Harbor,
10%.
yeah.
So that's not a safe harbor per se, but you've reached the 10% subsidized housing inventory that all towns are required to have by the state.
So Safe Harbor is, I think, an additional 20 units of housing. That's Safe Harbor for 2 years.
For 2 years, right, the 2 year.
So I guess I'm confused. So you're saying that once we build 275 units in 2 years, we need to, or 3 years, we need to build more?
No, it's not.
Never need to build more after we build this?
Well, so
What's the census?
there are a couple of things that you're referring to. So there's the benefit to the community if we have more than 10% of our housing as deed restricted affordable on the SHI, then the town has the prerogative to say no to a future 40B developer. So that's what we're talking about, the safe harbor, and do we get to 10%? I personally feel like the 10% mark is a good state policy, but for the town of Weston, I would still be supportive of increasing affordable housing and more sort of smaller infill projects as opposed to more larger projects, things that sort of are community supported, small 2-family homes and that kind of thing. So I personally, again, I'm just telling you my personal feeling. I would, even if Weston gets to 10%, I would continue to be on the Weston Affordable Housing Trust. I would continue to go to the town to ask for money for smaller projects. So they're kind of two different things that we're talking about.
So
But
these,
again, 275, according to our current census numbers, that would get us to the 10%. So from the zoning and the kind of control of larger projects perspective, that would be a real positive for the community, I think. I think we all are shooting for that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if you don't mind, just keep us posted, like
Oh,
informally, and then if
anything.
there's any point that you have stuff to show us again.
You've got my email,
Yeah,
so just email anything you need, and
Great.
we all gonna move, we gotta push and go through.
okay, good.
And I'll leave my card as well.
Yeah, if you receive, that would be great.
Yeah.
Great. And so Steve, Liz
would be
is
here.
our consultant, but she also like is
He's in San Diego.
on her email a lot.
Okay.
So if you don't mind, could you just trade emails and then, yeah,
Let me just get my card for this one.
thanks Liz. And then we could try to
Even-
Great.
spend
This is where I wanted to be.
I was surprised to see you here.
This needs to be on the line.
Perfect, yeah.
Because nobody knows about it.
Can't you find some high school kid who's an intern?
Nobody would do this. I mean,
Wait a minute.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm really impressed by the group.
Yeah, thanks for coming at last minute notice. I'm sorry if I'm worn down.
Really impressed by the group.
Long day, did you guys have dinner yet?
Yeah, I did. You went home first.
No, we were just out that return of
It's interesting that the entry 10%
Thank you.
was reached 10%. The town just wants to, make it higher.
Well, they'll always put things.
Yeah, and they're doing it too, they're hiring a buyer agent.
If we reach 10%,
Your son is like.
I already talked to him about it. He's
Buyer
in
agent
I'm 18
from
years old.
Sudbury to acquire more
I
property.
already asked him that.
they're hiring what?
A buyer agent from Sudbury to acquire more
Thanks.
property and build friendly communities in everyone's backyard.
If everybody's on board, we're pushing off our zero Wellesley Street.
I was gonna say,
Like
Australia.
time sensitive about zero Wellesley
Once we
Street
reach the number, the
at this
political
moment.
climate will change quick, I think.
So, maybe look at it next time, and
That
give
would-
some feedback for this.
I think once we reach the number, the horse is out of the barn.
Yeah, yeah. And then the other thing is that we've had some informal discussions with people who may be interested in the Zero Wellesley Street type of project. Including a woman from Habitat. There's a new executive director, George, whose last name I forgot, he retired. And there's now a director who I spoke to, and she's really nice, very interested and thoughtful. Mark is a person that can do that. Yeah, that's somebody else. I also talked to Kevin McGuire of Oxbow, and he was telling me about a project we did out in Nantucket, workforce housing. That was like 36 units or something. When you look online and you see these things, they are so cute. They're so cute. It's like, think of like little Nantucket houses, with a sheet style.
She will sell salt boxes.
Yeah. And he actually, after chit-chatting on the phone, he like sends his like back of the envelope spreadsheet, pro forma, just look at the goodness of his heart. I think his partner talked to us years ago, Peter Smith.
Yeah,
Do you remember
yeah,
Peter?
yeah.
Yeah.
The key piece about what he said too was the piece about the extra subsidy required.
Yeah.
And that you want to minimize that to go up to 100% for some of the units.
Yeah, so the idea was like, we could do 2 units at 80 and 4 units at 100.
And how does it work for CPC?
So, CPC allows, up to 100% AMI, because that's community housing under the definition of community housing. Because remember, Warren Ave, we got some 80 units and 100 units.
Are you talking about Zero Wellesley?
Yeah.
Oh, because
So
I
it's
didn't
just,
write it down.
Well, you
yeah,
just-
no, that's,
different.
we're just really
Oh, okay.
chit-chatting. We'll take it up in a more rigorous way.
Okay.
So the
next time we
political
meet.
implications, that, is it would be eligible for that SHI?
That's
So
the
that would just
downside.
need to be consideration.
No, that's a downside, and so that's why, the kind of the question of timing,
If this,
you
if
know,
this
we've
leaves
got,
open,
we've got all these big projects, and it's like,
this is
Right.
really.
Right.
we're not pushing the envelope on the SHI. It does give us a little bit of some space, so it's interesting.
We have 4 right now, so all we need to do is hit 2 of those, and then then there should be no more, that's not really a big motivating factor of the town anymore, right? We should more than exceed the deficit.
Which is just, it's mind-boggling. It's like I've been sitting in meetings for how many years?
Although if you see, I mean, we've said that you see what other communities do, they reach their 10%, they have 1 or 2 large properties.
Right.
Concrete.
As long as we don't have a financial meltdown in the next 6 months,
Mhm.
it should be okay.
That's reassuring.
For all of us. Or a coup.
Or-
So, next meeting, the question is time,
Are you answering for a morning meeting now?
yeah, I am, thank you for, so the,
Today is
February 13th,
Wednesday, just found that
I
out.
don't know if we were going
Not until
Are you
I
going
can-
somewhere nice?
going to London to see a production of a play that friends of ours are involved in.
oh my
Fancy.
goodness, great.
Yes.
Yeah, that does sound good.
Wow.
How was February 13th? February 13th, Wednesday, 8 AM?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that'll be good.
There's a
8 a.m., thank God.
Oh, really?
Well, I
Missed
The
those?
town hall and the police station.
It depends on if the elevator is fixed.
And the word was the elevator will be out for a while.
Why do we need to
Because
It
there's
has
some
to be
people with
ADA
mobility
compliant.
issues.
If we have to have an open
Open
meeting so that
meeting.
people who are, you know, who are
It's being
unable to
accessible.
walk
It's
upstairs.
not open if you can't access it, so it's accessible.
Okay.
And
And Susan,
Yeah.
you were the one who sent all that interesting information about Birch Lane.
Yes.
Anything new since?
Birch.
Birch. No, not really. Okay.
Just kind of like,
Are there gonna be a
We should take it up
This-
again
this
next
is the
time.
next meeting.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Only because I
Because I
know,
think that we should try to think about,
coordination and.
yeah, yeah.
And it's not on the agenda.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, we can chit chat off agenda. That's what we're doing. So I agree that we should talk about
okay,
that.
so that'll be on next.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just checking.
That's what I think I can do that there.
So everybody takes everybody takes
No problem. This is a walk calendar.
I think it's quite beautiful.
Oh, it is beautiful.
Calendars are all
I'm not
Star
sure my
Wars.
flowers, but they're beautiful.
It's like every year we get a new Star Wars logo. Yes, let's adjourn.
Do we have to vote to
Thanks,
adjourn?
guys, we're voting to adjourn. Did you
No,
vote? All in favor of adjourning?
all,
All. Buzzy wants to stay.